Welcome to Sky News TV. Stay tuned as we present to you a rundown of the news.
Our intelligence community just came out and said in the last few days that the Kremlin, meaning Putin and the Russian government, are directing the attacks, the hacking on American accounts to influence our election. And WikiLeaks is part of that, as are other sites where the Russians hack information. We don't even know if it's accurate information, and then they put it out. We have never in the history of our country been in a situation where an adversary, a foreign power, is working so hard to influence the outcome of the election. And believe me, they're not doing it to get me elected. They're doing it to try to influence the election for Donald Trump. Now, maybe because he has praised Putin, maybe because he says he agrees with a lot of what Putin wants to do, maybe because he wants to do business in Moscow. I don't know the reasons. But we deserve answers. And we should demand that Donald release all of his tax returns so that people can see what are the entanglements and the financial relationships
we're going to get to that later.
That he has
Secretary
with
Clinton,
Russians and
you're out
other
of time.
foreign powers.
This week, we saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia, a hostile foreign power, to influence American elections. In the month, again, as we celebrate the courage of our founders, Republicans in Congress have become enablers of the Trump-Russia assault on our democracy. After these latest revelations, it's becoming clear we have suffered a desecration of our democracy not seen since Watergate. Speaker Ryan must allow a vote on an outside independent commission to get to the bottom of the Trump campaign's role in Russia's assault on our democracy and prevent Putin from ever doing it again immediately. Outside independent commission. It's not just about what happened in the past, it's to prevent it from happening again.
I think you have to look at the pattern and the chronology. You have in late April the Russians approaching the Trump campaign and saying, we have stolen Hillary Clinton emails. You have only weeks later the Russians making another approach to the campaign, this time at the highest levels, offering dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
The campaign already on notice that they have emails. You then have the message going back from the campaign to the Russians, basically, we would love to have your help, we'd love to play ball, but we are really disappointed in what you gave us. And only days later, Julian Assange announces he's received stolen emails, which we know now came from the Russians. And the Russians themselves start publishing the emails through these cutouts. You then have Trump Jr. in private secret communication with WikiLeaks. So we have all of these facts in chronology. You'd have to believe that these were all isolated incidents, not connected to each other. It just doesn't make rational sense. Now, can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt, will be Mueller's question to answer, that the Russians communicated to the campaign that the way they were going to deliver the help they offered and that the campaign accepted was not by handing the emails directly over to the campaign, but by publishing them. That will be up to Mueller, and we continue to try to fill in all of the missing pieces. But we do know this. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning, whether it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of conspiracy or not.
Do you think President Trump has been compromised by the Russians?
I don't know. And these are words I never thought would come out of my mouth about an American president, but it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I don't know, and the honest answer is it's possible. It's hard to explain some things without at least leaving your mind open to that being a possibility.
What is the possibility that you see? What's the greatest possibility that he was?
Well, obviously, the most likely is that he's not. But the reason I say possible is that there's a non-zero possibility that the Russians have some sway over him that is rooted in his personal experience. And I don't know whether that's the business about the activity in a Moscow hotel room or finances or something else. But again, I don't want to overstate it. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying, to be honest with you, I have to say it's possible. At least in my experience, he won't criticize Vladimir Putin, even in private, even in a meeting with 3 people in the Oval Office, he is arguing that he gave a good answer when he said, essentially, we are the same kind of killers that Putin's thugs are. And that struck me.
The narrative of Russian collusion overshadowed Donald Trump's entire presidency, and the report is finally vindication for what he has been saying since 2019.
Well, I respect the move, but the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign, but I can always speak for myself and the Russians, zero. I think it divides the country. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things. So I can tell you that we want to bring this great country of ours together, John. And I will also say very strongly, we've had tremendous success. You look at our job numbers, you look at what's going on at the border, as we discussed before, you look at what will be happening, you're going to see some incredible numbers with respect to the success of General Mattis and others with the ISIS situation. The numbers are staggering, how successful they've been, the military has been. Tomorrow, as you know, I'm going to Saudi Arabia, going to Israel, we're going to Rome, and we have the G7. We have a lot of great things going on. So I hate to see anything that divides. I'm fine with whatever people want to do, but we have to get back to running this country really, really well. We've made tremendous progress in the last 100 and some odd days, tremendous progress. And you see job numbers, you see all of the production that's starting, plants starting to open again, haven't been open in years. I'm very proud of it. That's what I want to be focused on, because believe me, there's no collusion. Russia is fine, but whether it's Russia or anybody else, my total priority, believe me, is the United States of America. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, that's been obvious to me for a long time. I fired Comey, and that was a very wise thing to do. I'm glad I fired him, and I fired him very early. And he wasn't my pick either. I inherited him, but right. we got rid of him, and it's a lucky thing I did. Otherwise, it would have been far worse. But I would tell you that it's a great vindication, and it feels good. And the report has been, wildly praised. I wish it could have come faster, but the detail that he went into, 308 pages, the detail is extraordinary. And all of these people, I guess you could call it treason. You could call it a lot of different things. But this should never be allowed to happen in our country again.
In response to the Durham report, the FBI have released the following statement. The conduct in 2016 and 2017 that the Special Counsel Durham has examined was the reason that the current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. Well, isn't that wonderful to know? It'll never happen again. And of course, even after all of this, guess what the left are still saying? There's a connection between Trump and Russia.
John Durham is wrong. That's not just me that says that. Every other entity that's investigated our activities in 2016 agrees. And that's, of course, as you mentioned, the DOJ Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, as well as the Senate Intelligence Committee, led, of course, at the time by a Republican. So this report, Poppy, stands as an anomaly. I have my own theories as to why it stands as an anomaly. I don't think this investigation was legitimate from its inception.
Why?
Simply because John Durham made clear from the very beginning, shortly after he was appointed, exactly what he was going to conclude. He's made public remarks indicating that he thought that we had possibly broken the law and inappropriately investigated the president, which is an odd thing for any then U.S. attorney to do at the beginning of an investigation. He's echoed the same sentiments of his boss, William Barr, who was Attorney General at the time. So I don't think it's surprising where the report came out. It's disappointing. And it continues to fuel a false narrative about alleged FBI malfeasance that continues to this day, almost 7 years after the events in question. But, it's, as I said, I'm not surprised.
So you were on the Mueller probe. I mean, what was it like to know that for 4 years, another one-time peer, and we should say Mr. Durham was at one time respected and regarded. He came in and did some important work following the Bush years regarding to Jason to the war on terror policies. What was it like to have your probe investigated for 4 years?
So we were very aware, as I'm sure Pete Strzok and people at the Bureau before us were very aware, that there was going to be an investigation of us. And you know what? Our view of that was fine. You know what? If you know what you're doing is done in good faith, and obviously you could make mistakes, but our view was like, fine. If somebody wants to come in and second guess what we're doing and look to make sure we did something, that's fine. What's unbelievable about John Durham is he brought 2 cases that he lost. He seemed to say it was okay to bring a case even though it was really thin and not really provable, as long as you have some other story. This was Bill Barr's argument, which was, oh, that's fine because he was telling a more important story. That's not what criminal cases are for. So there was just this real lack of substance to what he was doing.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. May God bless you with your heart desire.